Hey, so welcome to the Node.js Node add-on API team meeting for May 16th, 2025. Um, as usual, we will go through the project board, which I'll share in a sec. Does anybody have any announcements they'd like to share before we dive into that? Okay, if not, I am going to share that. There's the right one. Okay, so anything in the done column that we should talk about? Okay, if not, I don't think there's any update on this one.
Yeah, about this folder, like I just want to go back to this about drain finalizer queue stuff.
Sure. Yep.
So I think I advise to kind of we just close this out, merging it. I think it's what
Right.
happened, right?
Okay. So basically, like the fix actually broke things, so it didn't make sense, and so leaving it as it is makes sense, right?
Right.
The pull request was actually updated after the test. The new test was merged, and the issue with the new change after the test is that it's just a style refactoring, so it does not add any new features or does not change the behavior. It's just purely style change.
Okay. Okay. So just didn't make sense. So that makes sense.
It's unfortunate, but yeah. So we had to
Okay.
close it.
Anything else before I go to the in progress?
I just want to say thank you, Chenjon, for going deep into providing tests for this case. It was awesome. Thank you. Yeah, please go
Yeah,
ahead.
especially around that tricky part. The more tests we can have, the better. Okay, yeah, this one, right. We did ask for a few more questions. I'm still just waiting on that, I think. So yeah, so wanted a little bit more information before being able to take a look at it. Um, I don't know if there's any other in progress ones worth. This one I did.
Uh,
Sorry, go ahead.
this one about long major DC events,
Yeah,
I am really stuck on this one. I think it is a little too in depth of like the actual V8 implementations or anything like that. All that I can really think of doing now is what I haven't done yet is since there was the new Node 24, which has a different version of V8, I can try to run
right.
the same tests. Just as a refresher, there was an instance where if you were to create an external buffer with 1 byte, it was constantly doing like a scavenge GC event versus if it was multiple bytes, it was another type. And I think that if you should go to the bottom, I think it's the second to last comment or something like that. Yeah, this one here, when it was 1 byte, it used a bunch of scavenges, and if it was a bigger, then it was a mark sweep or something like that. And I cannot find any particular reason why this is happening. Um, so I would be very appreciative if somebody else could also maybe take a look that has a little more knowledge of the V8 internals. Hey, because I just don't know how to proceed.
Do we even like, so this is like you create an array buffer, but size 2 and everything is fine?
I don't remember what the minimum size was, but definitely something happens with size 1 versus if you scroll down just a little bit more,
Yeah.
there's an array buffer with a larger size. And here it uses this mark compat type garbage collection. And I just don't really understand how or why. And it's just a little
But none of
maybe
that seems related to Node API, right? Like, I think it's sort of going to what you said, like this is V8 behavior. Like,
right, because we just pass, the arguments to array buffer new from node add-on API to the underlying node API function call,
right.
which then passes it along to V8 respectively. And I can't see, I don't know why V8 does the different garbage collection types or anything like that.
Right.
Maybe it's by design to be like this, but I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was about to say. Like, depending on the memory size, like typically any garbage collector has different algorithms because it's different costs for different things, and they may choose in this specific case that just kind of combine all these small memory allocations into some kind of big one, and which like much more expensive. And but again, it's maybe like some V8 internals, like what.
And I assume it's not that the app creates one buffer of size one and it causes a problem, right? They must be creating a lot of them.
Yes, it's creating these sort of buffers in a loop type thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd be like, I don't know. I'm tempted for us to say like we don't really think this is related to Node API itself.
I think that would be a valid thing to say because this issue has been open for a while now, and every time I go back to it,
Yeah.
I get no new knowledge or no new information really. The only thing that I can try, like I said, is trying it now with the latest Node 24, which has a different V8 version, but I assume it would be the the same behavior. I mean, I can't really make that assumption, but
Yeah, should we advise them to raise this issue against V18? Like it's like effectively even different project, not node.js project.
Um, for the issue to be able to report it to V8, we'll need to reproduce it via pure V8 APIs. So um,
Yeah, but
the
this is
thing is,
should be
do
developer should.
we? Yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Please continue.
Yeah, I was wondering if this will be, I mean, this behavior will be viewed as an issue because I don't see it will be, yeah, I'm trying to understand if this is a really issue to be fixed.
Yeah. That's kind of what does setting it to 0? So we create a new array buffer, but if you set it to 0,
yeah, to me, it really didn't make that much sense to have an array buffer with size 0. So I was like, okay, well, let me do size 1 because the poster was mentioning that if it was 0, it was a problem. I'm like, okay, then well, let me try with 1. And then 1, which does make sense, maybe you just have an array buffer that has 1 byte. And it was behaving similarly with 0. So I'm like, okay, so let's try 1 and then a bigger size. And then this is sort of where I get a little stuck.
right. So I can see like depending on the size, it's gonna, yeah, as Vladimir said, like we're gonna see different mark scavenges and so forth. But like, I guess the thing is like, I don't, unless we think we're doing something to add to the overhead.
And I don't think that's the case, because when I looked into the call stack with the debugger,
Yeah,
there's nothing special that we do. It's nothing like, if S is greater than a certain amount, behave this way, otherwise behave. I didn't see anything like that. It just seems to be passing the data to the V8 implementations.
and this is a like, so we're actually, is that, so that pointer, so this new is creating an external, like we've got the data already and we're just saying like, hey, here's an array buffer, we gave you the memory, so it's not actually allocating. The only
Yes.
thing I wonder that we might be doing in that case is we could be calling the adjust external memory. And that could, that adds a hint to V8 to say, well, like, hey, you got all this external memory, therefore you might want to GC a bit more if you're running out.
Right. That was one of the comments in the last comment here, is to check if that adjusted any of the behavior. And I saw no changes when I was trying to adjust the external memory. I didn't see anything. So yeah, I don't really know how to proceed with this.
I'm taking I just want to see in our source. We want like, this would end up being like a just external or something like that. Here, it's gonna, oops. Okay, almost got it into there, not quite. Looking. Well, I think that would be under the node ones.
No, I think it's inside of JS native.
I think it's in the JS native one. Okay, I just wasn't.
I believe so.
JS native API.
JS native API.
Just right. Okay, so that's where that is. So then, but the so creating a buffer. So we want then
The implementation is in the CC file of that.
right. Okay. Oops. Just don't call it. Like, I think we want to find a buffer. Like a new array buffer, right? Take a look in. Okay, maybe we need to look at like what does open that in a new window. New tab. Okay, so we want to see what array buffer new ends up calling.
That calls an API create array buffer.
Okay, so that's what I want to find here. An API create. So you said create, what was it?
Array buffer
Array buffer.
with no, it's one word, array buffer.
Ah, perfect. Okay.
Mhm. So then it's this V, I guess, line 30, 48, 30, 40 array, V8 array buffer new. And then I followed sort of that path and went down some rabbit hole, but I saw nothing specific.
Right.
that
We
gets-
don't actually call like that adjust external memory automatically, right? So
Right.
Yeah, because this one allocates memory inside of V8, right? Like we have next
okay,
one
right. So
external
the
array
pointer is
buffer.
returned. It's not an external, right? Okay. I was thinking maybe we were calling this one, which we don't. So
We probably
yeah,
need
I'd be
to adjust
thinking
an
it's
external
kind of like just you're creating a lot of garbage on or a lot of stuff on the heap that then takes a while to collect.
I doubt that we can affect it in any way. Like
Yeah.
to me, it sounds like if they want to have a better GC behavior, it's probably a question to the A team. I may be wrong here. Because I tend to agree with you, it does not sound to be no Node API question, unless they can tell us what exactly we're doing wrong.
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah, I think a reasonable answer would be like we've looked at the implementation and we just like basically do a direct call to the underlying V8 method. So we don't actually like it's not like anything we think in the APIs are making this worse. Therefore, like it's either that they're allocating too much and so the GC just has to spend the time to do the collection.
I would agree with that.
Unless for some reason there was something where we weren't freeing it but this, like in your example, you don't see a lot of like the heaps are not huge here, right?
Yeah, it's we also can what I can think about how GC typically works. That it does not run depending on how many times you allocated memory. It runs and you kind of running out of memory.
Right.
It's they want to kind of save number of calls. Like if you do allocation just by 1 byte, like maybe like in a second you produce a megabyte. Who cares? Why to run GC?
Yeah. But I guess like so Kevin, you had these were in a loop, right? Where you were doing this quite often. So I was just like the other thing that like maybe if for some reason we had something where we caused a memory leak, although in this case if it's just allocating objects, I don't see that. And here I don't see that like this isn't telling us that the heap is growing and getting huge, right? Like we're going from 4.3 to 3.7.
Yes, everything was being correctly collected and freed,
Yeah.
because that in the implementation that uses array buffer new,
Yep.
it would correctly, like in our test, it would
Yep.
correctly free it and then it gets
Yep.
finalized and all of that stuff. So does make sense that you allocate some, then you mark it as I'm not using it anymore. So, but V8 will not immediately free it when it goes out of scope. It gets
Yep.
freed when the GC runs.
Yep.
And we see that happening. So everything looks correct to
Yep.
me. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
And
so
GC
I think
frequency,
that's go ahead.
I just trying to say GC frequency depends on the memory pressure. So technically, if there is no memory pressure, GC will not do anything. And GC typically allocates some kind of chunk of memory, big chunk of memory. Unless this chunk of memory still have some space, there is no point for GC to do any work. Because GC cycle is expensive. They don't want to kind of make performance of application worse. So they can they're trying to make it as rare as possible.
Yeah, so I think it's fair after what you've looked at to say, we've looked at the implementation. It's basically a pass through to V8. So we don't think there's anything in, Node API or the wrapper that's contributing to this behavior. You probably need to look more at the you know, so what's their minimal reproduction look like?
Yeah. Kevin, what's the kind of root of the issue? What exactly does not work for them? It's performance bad? What's bad?
They report that they get a lot of long GC of garbage collection events. And
Oh,
yeah, I know that's all that they are really reporting, as in like from the main issue, I suppose.
So like they're looping, it's like every 10 milliseconds, we're gonna like fire off a whole bunch of stuff.
Yeah, and that's what this free and test data and free and test data, they have in their example, I think it was some sort of instance member, C++ instance member on this instance variable, this new object wrap demo, where they are storing the array buffer. So they free create, free create, free create. And depending on the size that you pass in to array buffer new, you see different behavior.
Right, and the difference they tried was 0 and 1.
That is, yes. So they tried with 0 and 1, and then they see apparently different timings with in these screenshots.
Yeah. I mean, 0 is a funny number in that, like, okay, I'm going to create a new array buffer, but there's actually no memory associated with it. So,
Right.
right, like, maybe there's an optimization there where they're like, well, if you ask for an array buffer with nothing, I can just give you some funny thing because you can't do anything with it, right? Like,
Right. That's what I also thought. So then I was like, okay, well, I'm going to try with 1 and a logical larger number. And that larger number corresponded to what they were reporting as like a width times a height because they're doing video data. So an array buffer of that size. And then I see the different types of garbage collection events. And that's really all that I
yeah, this reproduce just looks a bit like to me like, well, okay, I'm gonna just hammer I'm gonna hammer the GC by allocating and freeing things. And yeah, if you do that, you're gonna get the GC trying to work hard to, because it may not even be able to keep up. So yeah, I go back to like, we've looked at the implementation, which just to pass through, the So we don't think it's anything in the APIs, and the recreate, like, again, allocating every 10 milliseconds a whole bunch of stuff. I'm not sure what that shows other than you've got the GC working, right?
Right. Yeah.
Actually, I just read the original issue. Effectively, they're saying about external memory buffer. They're actually using external memory buffer. So I wonder if it's exactly what Michael said. Maybe we can add the adjust external memory to our external memory buffer.
Yeah, they did mention in the issue, they say create external buffer, but that is not what NAPI array buffer new does. And looking at the implementation, let's see. Oh, I was looking at the incorrect method, the prototype for array buffer new. The one that they are using with the byte size or the byte length does use create external array buffer.
Okay, so here's our create external. Oops.
Oh,
No.
mhm.
What do I do here?
It is, let's see, line 3053.
305.
Which then internally calls create external buffer.
And this external buffer, it's part of Node API. CPP.
Right, okay, so that's here. The and
Right.
then so we create this
yeah.
buffer new, and I suspect this buffer new will in fact add like here.
Yeah, you're right. It's maybe already doing it, right? Because it's pretty much it's one of the fundamental Node.js code.
The actual implementation of that.
No, it should be buffer or something like node buffer.
Okay, yeah, that's node buffer.
It should be. Yes.
Is this the right one?
Seems like we have several overloads and
Yeah, may not be the right one.
external buffer. I don't know. Yeah, with backend store. Yeah, I wonder if with backend store is supposed to report it.
And that backing store, that's what the comment that I have with the size 1 and size larger than 1.
Yep.
I do see the there's, I guess, logging message about the backing store and whatnot. But
Yep.
when I went through step inside, whatever with the debugger. I didn't see anything that we specifically handle special with the length.
Just taking a step back from the logs Kevin posted on the thread, I found that the GC tracing log does not spend too much time on each GC iterations. Like it still says every GC step is costing like 1.71 milliseconds, which is not a significant long GC event. It's in the middle of the log line. So yeah, you can find that a little bit left of the log line.
Plus
Yeah,
1.3 nanosecond.
1.71.
And is
And
this is
the
go ahead.
and the log about this section, it's about 2.78 milliseconds, but it's a different GC type. So from what I understand, the issue here is that it's just that allocating a lot of array buffers with large size will instruct Viet to garbage collector to do more often GC, and that accumulated more GC in total in the total benchmark. And given that the benchmark is quite small, it's basically a micro benchmark, and I wouldn't take GC issue seriously in such a micro benchmark. So, and given that each garbage collector run is not consuming more significant time, I think I'm still not understanding that if this issue is really a issue in real life, because it's just a micro benchmark, and the micro benchmark is trying to allocate and deallocate frequently, so it's foreseeable that GC can take much more time.
Yeah, I like I guess their original thing is like not just a micro benchmark, but I guess if you're just rapidly creating these and freeing these, I can see how it's going to end up being an issue.
And it reminds me a bit, remember a few months ago, we had one developer joining us, and he was actually talking like about some technique he's using. So he kind of creates one big buffer and then
Yeah.
takes chunks of his buffer.
Yep.
So he significantly increased performance just reusing instead of constantly allocating, deallocating. So it's actually not overloading garbage collector, but rather can just reuse this thing. Maybe we can recommend that if they can think about change their code in a way that they can just reuse buffers instead of constantly recreating them.
That's what I was thinking, like caching your buffers instead of constantly, because there is like we have these as we saw when we were just looking, there is like a finalizer, and finalizers definitely cost you. So not only just allocating and deallocating, but then having finalizers run and all that stuff, you'd be a lot better off having a cache. And I think, Valerie, what you just mentioned is like creating one and reusing chunks of it is even like an easier cache, right?
Yeah.
There's some kind of arena allocator, if you will, like as we do in C++ often.
Yeah. I think that makes a lot of sense. I don't know, Kevin, if you want to comment on that, or do you want me to write a comment, or what do you think?
I've been sort of writing as we
Okay.
so I think So I'm going to basically say that we believe it's not a Node API issue, going to the V8 internals and doing the suggestion of reusing the same buffer for other, instead of constantly freeing and creating them.
Yeah, and maybe just adding that, like, another contributor shared that actually creating one larger buffer and then using chunks or sections of it, for different bits of data actually help them with performance.
Right.
There is
Okay.
something called like array view, if I'm not mistaken, right? Like so which can give you chunks of the buffer. Right?
Yeah, I think you could basically say, well, like, I'm going to use indexes 1 to 10 for one thing, and then 11 to 12, 11 to 20 for the next one, and so forth, right? Yeah, and I think, like you said, you can do projections across them like that. Okay, that sounds good. Any sounds like you're set, Kevin, to respond on that one. Any
Will we
others
be,
go ahead.
will we be closing this issue with my comment then?
I think we could leave it open in terms of saying, like, here's a suggestion, because it'd be interesting to hear if they're like, yeah, okay, I tried that out and that solved the problem, right?
Okay.
But you can sort of comment on that, and like, unless we hear back from them, you can figure from your perspective, you're just waiting. So,
Yep.
okay, any other in progress before I sort of move on?
Yeah, like this small API. It's, so I think the
Right,
API
this
is
one,
there, like,
yeah.
I just need to clean it up a bit, but thankfully it's like linter has issues. I didn't have a chance to go back, and developer didn't react to it.
Okay, so but
But
otherwise,
otherwise, like, it would be interesting if you guys
yeah.
start looking at.
So you'd
It's
made
not full embedding API, it's just
suggestions and
very bare minimal, but we can start somewhere.
okay. So you approved. I think that's like, yeah, let me just double check. You've already approved that, I think, right?
Yeah, I still need to do it. We need to do another iteration because linter is unhappy. It's we have extra line.
Okay, but
So it's
told you, I'm happy too once it's that way. I think then once the linter's fixed, if you reapprove it, it's landable.
okay.
Okay. In terms of to do,
I am working on that warning.
go ahead.
That
Yeah.
is still on to do if you can assign to me.
Yep. Let me do that. Okay, let me go. Assign. Oops. I think that was you for second, right?
Yes, yes.
Yeah. Thanks for jumping into that. That's good.
Yeah. Thank you, Vladimir, for all the answers there. I was able, if you can open the PR
Sure.
for a sec.
Um,
Oh, it is.
we go.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Where do you
So
want me to go?
yeah, I added. I will also send a message to Tingzong, and he mentioned that maybe changing a lot of things on the CI files, but the change on the CI files are not related to the test itself. It's related to suppressing the warning message on the machines that has warning as errors. Because I need to add the Node API experimental no warning. Because without that on macOS and Coverage Linux and other ones, it will raise a warning and it will broke the CI pipeline because they consider it like a warning as an error. And yeah, and that's it. I also changed the build add-ons to create log files for all the builds so we can test the warning there.
That does make me wonder, are we going to break people's code?
Yes.
Right? Like if they've got existing code and then it's
like if they have a build that has warning as errors, it
Yeah.
will broke their builds.
Right, and they don't have a way to easily fix that, right?
They
They
would
Or
do
have to
have a
define that.
no,
They
okay.
would have, yeah, they define the macro node API experimental no warning, and then the warning gets suppressed.
Okay, okay, right. So yeah, so we have the option to say, right, suppress this.
did it make it sense, Ching Hong? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce your name correctly.
Yeah, thank you for taking my suggestions. I was just wondering how can we reduce the impact. Um, through your what you said. First, how can we reduce the change in the CF files? Because I don't really want this warning or this suppress warning to change our node project CF files. So one alternative that we can do is that to be able to recognize if it's a Node.js internal build and suppress it in the header so that we don't have to change the save files, because apart from these GitHub workflows, we also have Jenkins jobs. So we don't want these Jenkins jobs to be changed just for these warnings. The I think I think that's the what basically what I was suggesting. Maybe I can comment on the pull request and suggest what the change could be, because we have definitions like node one internals that we can use it as a suppression instead of changing the build files.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you for working on this.
Yeah, definitely. I think then, though, that we should mark this as Semver Major.
I don't find it really helpful, because we will publish the header to the npm as a package, and people will usually copy the whole file. So the usually anything that we made in the header file should be backported to all the LTS lines, so
Right,
that
okay, and this is a node, not the npm package, right?
yeah, I mean the usually we will keep the JS aligned across all LTS versions, because we see it as a API compatible layer between all LTS versions, right? So I'm not sure that making it a Semver major will help in this case.
Yeah, I was just thinking, I guess we've already had, like, because in the past we had something where we made a change in experimental, and we had a number of packages that no longer built, right? I guess that'll only be if they have warnings as errors in this case, so it wouldn't be all of them, but it.
Well, the if they are using node experiment and API experimental, and like, doesn't that already mean that it's possible that our APIs would change for those experimental APIs? You know, because the issue that you're referring to
Yep.
where we broke something was when we implemented the basic env. And a lot of people's builds were failing because they had NPI experimental,
Yeah.
using the old, no longer supported prototype with the basic environments. And their failure, all they had to do was really remove NPI experimental because they weren't even using experimental APIs.
Right. Yeah.
So I think that it is valid that if you're using experimental, your build may fail when we make changes to the headers. I think because if you don't want to have the build errors, then don't use experimental. Or if you are using experimental, be wary that things will change and you'll just have to
Yeah.
accepting of that.
It's more just that, unfortunately, like I'm a user and I've got this package that uses experimental and I upgrade my node version and now it breaks, right? Like, and I can't necessarily change the package to fix that.
The package owner would have to.
Right, the package owner has to fix that, right? And so it's just that it's a little bit like the that the end user who gets affected doesn't really have an easy way to fix it, which makes it a bit tougher. Because like they may not know they're using experimental.
And I think that's what happened with the basic env
Right.
change. A lot of people just defined NPA experimental without even understanding its repercussions and
Right.
not even using any experimental features. They just use it, right? And
Right. So this is where like, so I, is it worth like I think it's useful to have the warning so people know like, hey, I'm using this, right? But I don't, that's why I might say like, but yeah, let's tag it Semver major just because then if you're upgrading to a major version of Node, you expect more things to happen, right? Like maybe it doesn't work with one of your packages. And that could be the case. And it's sort of like, yeah, maybe it's experimental. We can do whatever we think is right. But I'm like, is it worth pushing people on a non-Semver major barrier versus just saying, well, like, yeah, let's put it in because it's a good thing to have, but let's make it Semver major so that we people are affected more when they're expecting to be affected by this kind of thing. That's kind of what I'm thinking. Like, if it was like, hey, no, it's a bug fix, it's got to go in right now, and it was an experimental, like, yeah, sure, maybe then this is sort of like a, hey, we're helping you understand, but like, it doesn't mean that we need to ruin your your day to help you, right? You know what I mean?
right.
So that's kind of what I was thinking is like, let's mark it as because it may affect people, like let's conservatively mark it as Semver major, and then yeah, okay, people don't see it as soon, but like I don't really see that as being a big problem. What do
Yeah,
people think?
thank you. And that makes sense to me. I also commented on sorry, on the pull request that how we can avoid changing CF files.
Yeah. So I will, like, I'm gonna assign the Semver major if nobody objects to that. Semver major.
Cool. It makes sense to me as well.
Okay, great. And then Chenzong, yeah, if you can comment on your suggestions, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, let me go back to the board if I can get back there. Oh, here we go. Okay. This one I've done, so actually I should pull that to done. So we can now launch the CI on like a PR. You have to put a little more information, like you actually have to put the commit that you want to test in. Like that same change was made in other CI runs in the I guess like the test commit PR for Node. I mean, if people haven't seen the background, there was a case where, a hacker figured out that they could basically submit. There's a gap between like, hey, we've approved this, and now we say we want to run the CI, and then they could force push and change what actually got run, and then run something on our CI machines, which is code we didn't expect to run. So we actually removed, like, as a short term, I just said, nope, the Node API one just runs on head, which is what our CI runs do by default. And then I later, after they'd fixed the other ones, I looked at that as a pattern and I added it back. And now you say, like, here's the PR and also here's the commit. So if somebody force pushes it, the commit won't match and it'll say, no, I'm not going to run. So that's done. Progress, anything. This one I talked again to the developer, and it's on their list, so they're sort of on their backlog of things to work on. We worked around it in the tests by removing it as a like the thing that was failing as a dependency. It wasn't actually in Node API itself. It was in like the linter code or something like that. Had something which was now very platform specific and has like, if I'm on Linux, if I'm on Windows, and it just was missing the if it's on AIX. So, but that's in the queue to be fixed. So, good. I don't know if there's anything in the to-dos that we want to chat about. Otherwise, I'm going to go to the needs triage and we can look. This one. Okay.
I think the issue here is that we don't co-finalize this when the process is being executed abnormally.
Right.
So given that there's a person that already claimed that they will work on the issue, I think it's fine to leave it, and wait until the person to come back.
Right, yeah. Is there any like, is a workaround to have an unhandled exception handler and then exit yourself? Would that make any difference?
Well, I don't have any that at the top of my mind. Probably we can explore that option. But I would
Just throw
say
that as a
that
suggestion in, like.
I mean, what I said is that I don't have any C++ native option, but you will definitely have the option to install a JavaScript even if it's not, and to do the cleanup.
So, or no, thanks for working on this. And I would say an at, they're not sure if it will work, but I wonder if you can add an uncaught exception handler. Because, and you know, so handler do some cleanup and then terminate normally. I don't know, like, just does that make sense as a possibility for them to take a look at?
Yeah, sounds good.
Okay. Throw that in. And so yeah, we've got somebody. Okay, I guess this one here is just because it's
the Stalebot got to
right.
it.
Did we figure out is there a different label that will? I guess we didn't have a never stale, right?
Yeah, I never had the never stale label.
Okay, so let's just remove stale. So we want and then I think we can remove that from here, all right? Delete from project.
Yeah, this is a very small pull request that migrate from via deprecated API to a newer alternative. It's a companion with another pull request that this one changes the Latin one in API get value string Latin one, and there's another one that changes the API get value string UTF-16. So
Okay.
yeah.
Those both
And
sound
like
good. People can take a look.
UTF-8. Sorry, we need one more. Yeah.
I checked that. We don't need any change in UTF-8 because UTF-8 is variable length and V8 does not deprecate the existing API because the shape is different from either UTF-16 and that one.
Okay. So I had the impression we have pre-functions, pre-write functions that they deprecated.
Yeah, right. I mean, that's possibly everyone's impression if we have to change any of this. But the reality is that the only deprecated API are the APIs to get the UTF-16 and that one.
Okay. So I made a suggestion in another PR, but yeah, it's good that you implemented it.
Cool. Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Yeah,
So that one, I guess,
it'll
is
be great.
Go ahead.
Yeah, definitely it'll be great if you can take a look at the Latin one podcast because you'll need another approval to get landed.
Yep. So people can take a look.
I think I already signed off another one, like it's probably yours. It should be enough to land it.
So
I think this relates to having a C++ class extend a JavaScript class, which has come every now and then into the realm of Node API. And I think we've always said it's not possible because V8 classes are function templates, and we don't have a way to use function templates in an API or something like that.
So in that case, maybe you've got the answer to add in there, right? Like the answer is just not possible, right? Like,
Yeah, I think that is, and then I can link to the other discussions where we've thought of having this before. Yeah, I'll handle this. I'll assign it to me.
will do. Thanks.
Mhm.
And I will move it into in progress. I'll leave it where it is. Okay, go ahead.
John, I just signed off with another one for right V2, so I think we should be able to land it with UTF-16.
Cool. Thank you.
This one, we figure we just do those occasionally, and this one we already talked about. This one I'm going to put into in progress there. I think that takes us through the list. Anything else we should chat about?
I
I
do
guess
have
there's
one.
more here. Go ahead.
Nothing. You can go ahead.
Okay, so we talked about this one, right? Or this. Okay, so this is one of these ones, right? But that looks like it's ready to go, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So I can
There's a
just
label,
move
right?
that into in progress as well. And then okay, so that one we're just still waiting to see if they resolves it. This one I think we chatted about too, right? But I think maybe we chatted about it, but didn't know quite what to do. Yeah, so I think I think somebody's gonna probably have to look into that a little bit more closely before we can really discuss it. So this one just looks like a new example. So if somebody has time to take a look at it, that would be good. Otherwise, I'll leave it in the triage as a reminder. And then I think that's all of them then. Okay. So that's it. So Kevin, yeah, you had a different topic.
Yeah, just very quickly. We used to do it at the start of the meetings, going to NPM Node add-on API to see the weekly downloads or whatever.
Yep.
And this week we did cross the 30 million weekly downloads mark. So I think that is something to celebrate.
Yeah, wow, that's I think the other interesting thing which we've hit. Let me find the presentation that I'm doing. Yeah. Because yeah, related, that's yeah, thanks for bringing that up. The other thing I think that's interesting is that like in terms of the ratio of the total, it's hit some interesting numbers as well. All right, I'm just slowly getting there. Maybe one more minute. So this is not the most recent, but we can see that, you know, in terms of the percentage that is of add-ons that use either NAN or Node add-on API. Node add-on API has now hit like 61% as of the date that I did a little while ago. And like, since we always thought that it was like the 80% use case, because there's some things like the one we just talked about where we're like, we don't expose absolutely everything that's available. It's only going to be the 80% use case. We're up to like 60%, which is getting there. It's quite interesting.
Very nice.
Yeah, and 30 million's a pretty significant number too. So anything else anybody wants to bring up or share? Okay, well, thanks for everybody's time, and we'll see you in GitHub. And I won't see you next week, but Chenzong's going to chair, and I'll see y'all in a couple weeks. Thanks.
Yeah.
Bye.
Have a
Yeah.
good weekend. Bye.
Yeah.